let's do a list of the good and the bad of what we saw tonight. All right, let's both start
That's
with
fun.
the good.
That's fun.
Yeah,
I wish
no,
we had actually graphic capabilities. We are going to have a producer for those Sunday night shows
Goldie.
that can
Yeah, Goldie.
do some special things. But yeah, let's start with the good of what we saw
Sure.
on TGL opening night. What was it, Rex?
And I scribbled down a couple of things. One, I think you and I both agree, all the players that came through all agree. The pace of play is magical. Chef's kiss. 40-second shot clocks. We need to get that worked into the game somehow. Like, look, there is no walking between shots, pretty much. I mean, this is just you stand up, you hit a shot, you wait for your next turn, you hit the very next shot. So it's going to be a pace of play you like, but it was the 40-second shot clock that I think really made this, because it made guys think, it made guys be decisive, it made guys do everything they need to do that they don't do on the PGA Tour, which is why it takes 5.5 hours for a round of golf. So I really like that. I thought the technology really shined. Oh, are we bouncing this back and forth? We probably should talk about this.
I think we probably should sort of button up these sorts. Like to me, the pace of play was by far the biggest highlight of the night. In 40 seconds, it seems like a long time. But when you actually are making the decision, selecting a club, walking to the area, going through your pre-shot routine, doing your pre-swing waggle, like you're probably getting down to that 5 to 10 second range. But it moved so briskly. It was so refreshing. Players were ready to hit. They were not indecisive. They weren't going over all of the different elements that a typical player caddy conversation has on the PGA Tour that really bogs it down and makes it such a drag to watch a couple of times. However, Rex, I also think that could potentially be a bad thing with how quick the pace of play is, because at that point you're relying solely on the golf, and there's actually very little time for banter. There was a fun exchange when you had a timeout that was called sort of late in the match, and you could sort of give it to there. But you're not exactly seeing the trash talking or the needle giving that I think we were probably promised early on. Once we actually saw it in actuality, there's going to be very little of that. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I think depending on your perspective and what you want to get out of those matches, you're not going to get as much banter because the time limit restrains that.
That's fair, and we'll get to the bad list shortly enough. My next good is going to be the technology. It's everything we were waiting for. You and I have talked about it now for a couple of weeks. You and I both know a lot of people at TGL, so we had an idea of what it was going to look like, but it turned out to be really cool. Like watching the guys hit drivers into the big screen and watching how they reacted and hearing the players talk about that. Yeah, the shot I hit is probably the shot that ended up in the virtual world. And then seeing how they reacted on the putting green, which rotated, which we've talked a lot about that. I think all of the bells and whistles that everyone was looking forward to, they went off without a hitch. Now, and we also watched the television product. And let's make no mistake about this. This is a television product. So I think on the technology end and on the moving the competition, sort of sending that out to a mass public, and the way they did it in a new, different, fresh way, I think that was very, very good.
Yeah, I cannot overstate just how amazing the technology is. They have like 25 cameras that are capturing all the data possible. Keep in mind, they did not have a single malfunction. I realized that you had 2 years to work through this. I realized you had practice matches and players coming to test it and to make sure that they are sort of well adjusted to what they're going to face here. But you did not have a single blip. You did not have a single shot that sort of came off and the player was taken by surprise where it was going to end up. I think that is a technological marvel. I also, Rex, like the screen that's behind me here, like it's 5 stories. It's hard to sort of put it in perspective. I know you mentioned it during media day, but like seeing it in person, it is so impressive. The pistons in the rotating green, how it changes, how it's moving, how quickly it does. And here's the thing that I absolutely love that I was not necessarily anticipating. So let's say a player is hitting a approach shot from 150 yards, right? And Ludwig Oberg hits it to 8 feet. Within 2 or 3 seconds, there is a spotlight that drops down onto the green to show exactly where Ludwig Oberg, or I guess his partner in this case, Shane Lowry, is going to be putting from within 2 or 3 seconds. I don't know how that's happening. I don't know what sort of technology they're capturing from ShotLink that's panning up to some lights and then it's dropping down 8 feet and he knows exactly where to place the ball. I thought that was amazing how quickly they're doing it. I think, again, it goes to sort of the briskness of the pace, that this is a 2-hour package show, that everything is just moving quickly. It's really a refreshing way to watch golf.
And to that point, that adds to some strategy. And I don't think we necessarily saw it tonight because the winning score was not indicative, I think, of what we'll end up seeing the rest of the season, to be honest with you. 9-2. The Bay Club ended up winning. They won easily. I think what you're going to see in the future, though, and to your point about the lights, is you'll have a player who tees off or hits an approach shot. And the next player who should be playing will be essentially looming around the green with a putter and probably a wedge or two, just waiting. Because if you play your shot as fast as you possibly can, and as soon as that light shows up, you drop your ball and you play it, now you put the pressure on the other team. I just think it's fascinating. It's a different sort of mindset for golf that we've never had. And then the last thing that I really, really liked, and I was very skeptical of this, I found it much more easy to digest than I probably thought it was going to be. And by that, I mean
triples is a great format. I'm a huge fan
triples.
of triples.
Is a really good, I think they should do everything triples, to be quite frank with you, instead of going to singles. But I thought triples was fun. I think it adds an interesting element to it. I thought the hammer, they didn't use it quite as much as I thought, but there was strategy to that as well. Like once the Bay Club got a lead and once they got the hammer, because it rotates back and forth, why would they? And Shane Lowry did a really good job of just describing that back in the media center about there's no reason for us to. We have a big lead. There's no reason for us to ever give this flag up and give them an opportunity to cut into that league. Everything about it was, and I would be curious to see what the public thinks in the next day or two as we start to hear more and more feedback from people. And like, look, you were on X, and I saw you scrolling through Twitter earlier tonight. I don't think that's a very good forum for if you're looking for feedback one way or the other. But I think what you were trying to get at is something that people can just watch on TV without spending a lot of time thinking about, and that's where they ended up.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. And as it relates to the format, I thought this about the showdown a couple of months ago as well with Brooks, Bryson, Rory, and Scotty. Like alternate shot is the best way to have these sort of made for TV exhibitions. I actually don't like singles. I think that bogs down, particularly in TGL when you have the intermission and then you get into singles, which is a little bit confusing to follow. For me, Rex, my last positive that I thought was like really positive was that the players, most importantly, the players enjoyed it. That's half the battle. If these guys are disinterested, if these are just guys are just going through the motions, just trying to get paid, if they're doing it because they have some sort of contract obligation that means that they have to show up here on Tuesday, like they're not going to be into it. Instead, and I thought Shane Lowry was sort of the perfect person to be used in this scenario. He said that he's entering his 17th season as a professional golfer. Life on the road is exactly the same. It can be very monotonous playing just 72-hole stroke play competitions. He said that this was the most fun he's ever had in 2 hours on the golf course because it's new, because it's different, because he's with his friends, because he's got teammates, because it's made for TV, because there can be banter. Like he's looking for something at this stage of his career to be different and to be fun. And I think he's like the perfect avatar for what this thing can be. In player investment, I think is such a huge component of that.